And thank you for attending our PCB design and layout checklist of what you need to start webinar. My name is Ed McMahon, the CEO here at Epec. Before we get started, just want to let you all know that you're going to be muted during the presentation. So if you have any questions as we move along, go ahead and enter them into the questions panel that's located in the webinar control panel, and we'll try to get to all of them at the end of the presentation. If we don't have enough time to get to all your questions, we'll be sure to reply back to everybody via email. Also, we're going to be recording this webinar, and we'll be posting both the recording and the slides on our website and YouTube channels. Our presenter today is Angie Brown, who is our PCB product manager here at Epec. Angie has over 38 years of experience in the printed circuit board industry, and I personally worked with her on many different projects over 15 years. After having spent many years on the manufacturing side, she became a CAM engineer and has worked on processing thousands of different data sets. Angie also has a production background, so her successful combination is really valuable in the position that she's in. As a product manager, she's our main resource for our customers, and she spends all of her time really at this point working with customers on not only the PCB design, but on developing Gerber data and other issues with printed circuit boards that help our customers be more successful. Along with that, she oversees the entire engineering team here at Epec when it comes to printed circuit boards. So needless to say, she's got a ton of experience, so I hope you enjoy this presentation. So with that, I'll turn it over to Angie.
Thank you, Ed. And thank you everybody for joining today for our webinar on PCB design and layout. This will be a checklist of what you need before you get started. So our agenda for today, PCB design concept from a supplier point of view. This is how we see the process going. An overview of schematic, file, and formats, different softwares that are available to you. A bill of materials, which is commonly known as a BOM. Scheduling and certifications, what we need to know before we get started. What PCB specifications are needed up front before we even begin. And the benefits of having a supplier like Epec be involved with your PCB design as a fabricator before completion. And then we'll go over a summary of what we went over. So the project from a designer and manufacturer view, initially there's a main objective, and it could be related to a new project, an old project that we're going to revamp and fix a little bit, or a new revision. We sometimes find ourselves wondering if it's going to make something bigger and better and faster, or maybe it's going to be more portable or lighter, smaller. We also sometimes wonder, is this going to be commercial or military, medical grade? Many military jobs are as far as CMMC compliance and will affect the design choices that are available to you. I always find myself asking, are we improving lives or saving lives? I really like to know what this project is going to be in. All these questions are important to you, and they also should be important to your supplier. We all want to get into a project together to succeed. The project from a customer perspective, we imagine, goes something like this. The discussion comes up about a project, and then we decide what the device needs to do. We decide who, what, when, where, why, how long is it going to take. We start to enlist our teams. We get some buy-in from some other team members. Maybe we discuss with the owner or your manager or the entire management staff. Sometimes we enlist electrical engineers, mechanical engineers, or even a design team to help us. You begin to take some further actions. And these actions cost you money, so you want to invest your time well. We schedule meetings, pull together groups. Maybe there's a marketing assessment to see what the commercial or the consumer drive would be behind it. When we start to assess cost. As we begin to set our timelines, We've pulled together a concept, draft schematics, start with a BOM, try to find out what components are going to cost us, and set some rough guidelines. Then we decide, let's get this quoted and see what we're going to come up with for final cost. Maybe we go to a design team internally, or contract manufacturer, or maybe we go directly to the PCB supplier. This is when we begin to get involved. So how the development process works. A customer will create schematics that'll include the components, some roadmap for electronics, key components for functionality. Maybe we set some physical parameters and some limitations. And then we begin our PCB layout and design until it's completed. At this point, you've invested in electrical engineering, design engineering. You've come up with a complete set of Gerber data. We've roughed out some PCB dimensions and finalized that portion of the project, and we have our basic BOM completed. Then we move to full costing development in PCBA. You have your bare board, your PCB assembly, your full BOM, assembly cost, and test cost. By now, the project is fully developed and can go to production. But what else is needed before we get started? So schematic functionality to include RF, EMI, parameters, impedance, cutouts, any kind of component specialties. Maybe you have impedance, strip line impedance, and maybe there's also some special components that are rare and hard to find. Putting together a complete BOM from manufacturer to reference for quote is necessary. The BOM should include manufacturing part numbers for key components. Discrete components can be generically unit until assembly is required. Components are required so that we can retrieve footprints for placement on the PCB. Some components will be on a single side. Some may be on two sides. It depends on the library and the footprint space that is taken up. To ensure we're following all design rules, it's very important that we know what these footprints look like. A one-to-one outline of the PCB, including any other physical restrictions and features, is key to your designer and layout team's success. If there's any certifications that we should know about, like UL, FDA, or UN, it's good to know those up front because it will require some special managing of the part. A timeline for completion is good to know as well. Some of the time, projects are urgent and we need to get right into production. Some of the time, there's many months to be spent. Having an idea of what this project will be in the beginning helps us all to schedule and be on time and complete. Production volumes and target pricing for full PCBA, a lot of the time you don't know this up front unless it's a new revision. If you do have this information, this will help us pull component lists, PCB laminates, surface finish, and other requirements for the PCB. Some of the items that are left out which cause issues are the schematic is incomplete. It doesn't have high voltage current areas, special ground pores, keep out areas, frequencies that may need to be known, controlled impedance, or other unusual considerations. Such as the board on your right, as you can tell, there's some intricate routing and dimensioning that would be needed to complete this PCB. The PCB details board size, maximum size X and Y dimension, and maximum thickness is also critical. Knowing what your PCB is going to go into and the amount of room we have to build the PCB is key to the success of your project. Cutouts, surface mount devices, is it going to be one side or will two sides be allowed? Is there component restrictions where there's a special height that has to be met? Some components hang over the edge. Is there something critical there as well? Shielding, ground plane, all these things are critical for your success and ours to get this right as quickly as possible. Most importantly, the Gerber data. What creates the start of the project, the PCB? What your expectation is for deliverables. As a standard package, we include the example on the right. All your copper layers, solder mask, paste files, silkscreen, a one-to-one outline, drill programs for non-plated drill and through drill, and an IPC netlist can be provided upon request. You may also need a 3D drawing, which also takes additional time. Expanded fabrication and detail drawings could also be developed if those are required. Assembly drawings, sometimes it is advantageous to have your PCB supplier create those with you as well to meet special requirements such as spacing between PCBs and rails for ease of assembly. Sometimes you may need a DWG or other file formats. If we know this up front, we can hopefully supply exactly what you need the first time we send. Overview of schematics, files, formats. So let's run through some quick definitions that we've already talked about. A schematic. I refer to the schematic as your roadmap for your PCB, your circuit diagram, something that shows you exactly where the components are going to be placed. The symbols represent the placement of the components and where the electrical connections are going to be, sort of your blueprint for your circuitry. A PCB designer or PCB design shows copper tracks, whole layout, your printed circuit board, and it also shows where the components are going to be located with values, codes, and within the silkscreen printed layer. Sometimes one side or two sides, again, will have the component placements. So you will have one silkscreen for the top and one silkscreen for the bottom. Gerber files used by the PCB manufacturer are data to create all the layers that are needed to fabricate your PCB. The circuitry layers for all copper internals and externals, solder mask for both sides, silk screens for one side or two, and an outline layer, as well as the drill, non-plated drill, or perhaps you have some blind vias or buried vias. These will be included as well. The preferred format for Gerber files is RS-274X or ODB++. Both are good standard Gerber formats and are usually available from whoever does your design and layout. PCB is your raw printed circuit board unassembled, and PCBA is your fully assembled PCB. Schematic formats. There's many choices out there. If you go onto Google and you start to Google design software programs, you're going to find many available. Some of the things you want to ask yourself is, how user-friendly is it? Are you going to have to take several classes just to understand how to start up the program? What's the price going to be? And how frequently are you going to use it? Some of the time, these softwares come with updates frequently, and some of the time they come with a yearly cost to continue to use them. So knowing all this up front will help you decide if this is within your budget. The software should include things like high-speed signals, auto routing, circuit analysis, and they always should have a large component library. Some examples of software that are available are Altium, Autodesk, Cadence, Allegro, Mentor Graphics. There's so many out there. If you Google, you'll find a whole bunch, but be careful because some softwares lock you into using certain suppliers. They do not give you an output format, and they do not allow you to go to the supplier of your choice. PCB schematics look like this. When you receive them, it shows some of the routing and the component placement, quad pack, flat pack in the center. some U49, U48 components over here. This is just an example of what you should see when you open up your schematic. So a bill of materials, or more commonly known as a BOM, should be complete, such as this one. Oops, sorry, I got ahead of myself. What makes a great BOM? Bill of materials, a BOM, especially for components. It should have a part number, a manufacturer, a description of the part, the quantity, the lead time, known problems, if any. If something's coming to end of life and there's not many out there, you should try to find another option. Can you cross or use substitutes? And what is their critical placement within the PCB? Here's an example of a great BOM. It shows you the item number, the quantity needed, the reference number for the capacitors, part numbers listed by the manufacturer's name, a description of how the part can be purchased, the cost of the part, and the customer part number. All of this information makes it easier for us to design the PCB. Some of the times we get BOMs that are not so great, such as this one. It does give you pretty much the same information. However, the manufacturer part number is left off, which leads us to decide, do we try to Google it, call the customer, call the manufacturer? How do we cross and find out what these components are actually numbered at to purchase from the supplier? Scheduling and certifications. Knowing what you need. So time is important to everybody, and we want to get you what you need when you need it. Design can take 4 to 6 weeks, and this includes all the back and forth between customers and our design team. Some choices can lead to respins and changes during the design and layout process, and this can affect your lead time. Certifications can add time to your lead time, making sure that you meet all the requirements for all the certifications to be approved. Outside elements are another thing to consider. Will the PCB assembly be exposed to elements? Will it be out in the heat or in the cold? Will it be prone to humidity or water? All of this is important to your supplier. Will you be adding components and removing them? PCBA hand soldering is a specialty process that sometimes is repeated several times. The benefit of having your PCB fabricator complete the design. When PCB suppliers are involved in the design and layout, they won't design in something that we cannot build, eliminating the need for expensive prototyping and respins and design revisions. Having an engineering staff, such as ours, able to review the data during the process and the development of the design and layout is advantageous to getting it right the first time. We'll provide real-time cost-benefit analysis, and we'll listen to you as your customer requests of things to be changed during the process. Immediate feedback gives you options for design choices. We can quickly get you quotes on PCBs. Design for manufacturability, or DFM, is something that Epec does consistently with all of our products. Prior to sending files, our engineering staff will review each layer completely. The entire design will be reviewed by a staff member, and any issues found will be conveyed back to our design and layout team. This makes for much less issues, and the files have already been verified by an expert prior to you receiving them. We will discuss items like your vias. Are they through vias, mask-free, mask-filled? Will they be blind vias involved? Via and pad process, is it necessary because we've run out of room with our components? All of these can be done up front with your engineering team and your design team to make the best decision for you. PCB assembly and layout suggestions. All PCBs usually require a stencil, either one side or two. However, maybe it's better to talk about this up front and discuss arrays, setup costs, reduce costs. Some parts you may want to run as a single because it's larger and more difficult. Some parts are small and you may want them in an array, multi-up with space between them, rails and fiducials added to the waste part. All of this can be designed at Epec with our engineering team combined with our design team to make it easier for you. We'll address all the issues up front and make sure there's no problems going forward. So free DFM file check is something that we developed many, many years ago. You can send your files to us through the link listed below, and our engineering staff will review the files and report back to you directly with any issues that they have found. We encourage you to use our engineering staff to help you with all your design needs. What to expect from your PCB designer? Well, the main key is constant communication. In the beginning, we receive what you provide to us and we'll review it thoroughly. Sometimes there's some back and forth through email to try to get a little bit more information or answer some questions. Often, we prefer to go to the calendar and pick out some days, dates, and times and try to set up a Zoom call or a Teams meeting with you to go over anything that we have questions on and to hopefully answer any questions for you. These meetings happen frequently and are aimed to make it quick to get your process completed and get your final set to you. This can take several days to a couple of weeks for final review to be completed. So a summary of what we talked about: PCB design, interactive process. Not everyone sees it the way we do. We have seen many file sets come through, like Ed said. And some of these, when you look at them, we wonder, how are we ever going to make this PCB? And we find a way. And there's interaction between us, production, and our customers to find a way. The more you work with your PCB designer upfront, the smoother your process will be. You will save costs in prototyping, and the more information we all have, the better and smoother it will go. Working with your PCB manufacturer makes the process quicker. It helps you to be successful with your assembly team as well. Documenting clearly what you expect to have for deliverables in the beginning is key to your success. We want to know exactly what you expect to receive at the end of our project with you.
All right. Well, thanks, Ange. Well, Andy's going to review the questions that came in, and we're going to get to answer a couple of them here. Just wanted to briefly mention some of the additional PCB-based products that we offer here at Epec. As you can see here, everything from really extensive custom battery packs to user interfaces, flexible heaters, along with RF products. The thing to keep in mind is that we have a library of about 25 or more webinars that we're doing now, and we're doing continually adding to it, usually once a quarter. So if you enjoyed this or you found this helpful, there's a lot more there, not only in our webinar page, but on our blog posts as well, that we do at least one a week for our technical information. We've got, well over 10,000 subscribers to that blog now, so please check that out as well. So with that, next slide, and I'll turn it over to Angie to answer the questions.
Thank you, Ed. So we've had a few questions come in during the webinar, so that's a good thing. And I've looked at a few of them, so we'll just go over a few. Can you quote the PCB at the same time as you quote the design? The answer to this is yes. However, we will need a few things from you. So most of the time we can quote it if we have a one-to-one outline of the PCB, if we know the materials that you're going to require. Is it going to be Rojas finish, or will it just be standard hot air solder leveled? If we know the thickness as well, we can pretty much just determine a budgetary price per PCB. And of course, we'll need to know the quantity. Another question that we got is, can you quote ITAR design and manufacture ITAR boards? Yes, we can. We can do both. We can quote ITAR designs. However, this will require setting up a share file, which is an FTP safe site for you to upload your files to Epec. We will be able to transfer files back and forth to you safely and securely using our share file system. Our IT team can set you up with share file as well to help you with interaction between Epec and yourselves safely. We can manufacture flex and rigid flex and ITAR boards at our NetVia facility near Dallas, Texas. So another question we had was exactly that, about design flex and rigid flex, as well as rigid. We already went over rigid boards, but yes, we can design flex and rigid flex. We have a product manager, his name is Paul Tomei, for all things flex. And we can also manufacture flex and rigid flex both domestically at our NetVia facility in Dallas, Texas, as well as offshore. So whatever you need, we can fit it. And finally, a last question that I'd like to answer was, can you still perform a free DFM without having a quote done? So we touched on this briefly a couple of slides ago. And yes, free DFM is always available to everybody to use, whether you request a quote or whether you're even a current customer of ours. You're more than welcome to use our free DFM service that is accessible on our website. You will be able to interact directly with one of my engineering staff to tell you exactly what they have found or have not found with your PCB. So with that, I'd like to thank everybody. We have a few more questions that have come in, and we will respond by email and answer each one of them as they came in. Thank you so much for joining us on our webinar today. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend.